Okay.
Okay.
I want to take
Want to
this
take
time
this
to
time
say
to
good
say good
afternoon.
afternoon.
And this
And
is
this
the
is the
Liberian View.
Liberian View.
Welcome you.
Welcome you.
And
And
today we're
today
just
we're
going to
just
go
going to go
through
through
the main
main
topic
topic
of
of
the
the
foundational principles for a healthy system in Liberia that emphasize the importance of investing in the human capital, uh, including education, healthcare, and social safety nets. This approach aims to create a sustainable system that prioritizes that prioritize the well-being of all citizens, especially the underserved population, like Liberia's motorcyclists. You know, last week we discussed this topic. We answered some questions and we share stories. I think today what we're going to do, we're going to make sure to put those stories on, and so that you also, as you listen in, you can also send your questions. We have about 10 questions that were sent through the chat and through emails. And then reason why we trying our best to make sure to repeat the particular topic is because there are a lot of questions coming in, and people had even made us to understand that the motorcyclists actually they are often referred to as the pimping riders in Liberia, and they are facing significant challenges, you know. And also we understood that most of them are ex-combatants, and also they're conflict affected youth who have taken their time to do what they call motorcycling as a means of livelihood after the war, and they continue up to date. But despite their critical role in the urban area, especially when it comes to transportation, they often encounter dangerous roads condition, you know, the lack of some regulations. So they have a lot of different unions that they have, you know, established to be able to protect themselves, but they undergo like something you call maybe social rejection because of the stigma of most of them, you know, not all of them, you know, involved in criminal activities, you know, and they've been attacked by, you know, some passengers that would take them in certain corners. So there are a lot of things. So all day we make sure to we're going to repeat the recording for you to listen to it, and they're sharing. Two of them are sharing their stories on the way how their hustle and their resilience, you know, um, in this particular in a particular stage of their lives. Um, we want to make sure that these stories are shared, and that we're hoping that the government of Liberia will have, you know, opportunities, someone, Ministry of Transportation or whoever responsible for them, especially when it was learned from their stories as you listen to it, that the government is trying to, you know, there are certain areas they're not supposed to go or maybe phase them out. So we're wondering, most of the questions were, are there any plans when it comes to them being phased out? So we're going to give you the opportunity to listen to them. We have four speakers, and currently, there's due to some technical difficulties, they're still trying their best to join. But we're going to share these stories as we go through. But you hear from after it's been shared, and Reverend Lord spoke lengthily about this whole situation. Um, and I also stated it's important that we care, because in a society as ours in Liberia, sometimes, you know, you only focus on yourself, your children, but we need to also see the fact that if we do not really pay attention to the underserved young adults, the underserved youth in Liberia, who, due to the fact that some of them don't have parents, their parents died during the war, or they just lost their parents one way or the other, and it's no fault of theirs, and they find themselves, you know, living from riding these motorcycles to as a means of transportation and to feed their family. There are a lot of sad stories, but actually the most interesting thing about this thing is that we have a lot of people paying attention, and so some of them email their questions, some of them ask questions in the chat, and we didn't have the opportunity to answer those questions. So today we'll take the opportunity to answer a few of the questions, and we hope that you all are following, because, you know, today you may be up and the next day you're down. But the reason why the Liberian View have decided to focus on the foundational principles for healthy system in Liberia, because it's part of our responsibility, regardless of your geographical location currently, to make sure that Liberia is healthy, that we are able to support one another, especially the underserved population and pay attention to their challenges, because if we want to have a healthy Liberia, we must be inclusive. You can't do all. The government cannot do everything, but if the government decides to phase out or take away this opportunity for them, or maybe have an area within Liberia that they shouldn't operate, is something like maybe they need to have a meeting with them to tell them this is what you need to do. These are the areas that you're not supposed to be riding at. And I think their fear is that the fact that they've been told not to ride in certain area, that's the most area that maybe the income comes from. That's the area they can find a lot of passengers. Well, whatever the cases are, we're just going to dive into it and see how we can answer some of the questions that were asked. And we're hoping that you also can send your questions or put your questions in the chat. You can join us right now we are live. You can join us at www.facebook.com /The Liberian View, or www.youtube.com /The Liberian View. Thank you. And so I will just go ahead to play one of the videos, and we're hoping that you listen in. And then as we play and discuss, we will go back to the questions that you've already sent in, and we'll be able to answer this question. Right now, I'm going to play a video from one Mr. Trocon Gray. He's commonly called the Yellow Machine, and he's one of the leaders for the motorcycle union in Liberia.
Gray, alias Yellow Machine. Welcome to the Liberian View.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Trocon Gray. I'm popularly called Yellow Machine. I'm the president of Supreme Motorcycle Transport Union of Liberia, a constituent union of the National Federation of Motorcycle and Tricycle Association of Liberia, and the lead campaigner against the government no-go zone restriction. It's a pleasure being here.
Okay, Chokon, tell us a little story about yourself in terms of how you came into motorcycle riding and all of that.
Yeah, so I entered this motorcycle field when I was in 11th grade. That is somewhere around 2010, 2010, because that's a 10, 11th grade. So going to school, being self-supported. At the time, I was designing nails, where we used to go around, buy nails polish, force nails, go around, polish nails, and the rest of them. So time came, the hustle got tough. And so when I came across some of my friends who were already involved with the motorcycle riding, and that's how I got interest in it. So I had to make a decision between the nail designing and the motorcycle sector. And so I started getting interest in the sector. And so, but at the time, I never had the money to buy the motorcycle. So what I did, even though at the time I was still a kid, but I had one senior brother who was doing private security work, and that's how I went to him because thinking it was like 2 of us could not afford my school fees. And so when he was one senior brother in the community where in most of the time I would draw his water, do smaller work for him. And so when I told him that things were tough, he said, Trocon, what I will do for you, I'm working with a security firm, and I will talk to my boss. I need to give you a job. And so I was happy, even though I was still a kid, but my school was very key because I was like almost dropping out of school because of school fees. And so I had to accept that job. And that's how I started the security work. I worked for like 6 months for one Lebanese guy. He got a phone store around Bankson and Rana Street. And so when I was introduced to him, he said, no, I can't. He's a kid. I mean, this work, it needs somebody that is strong enough need man, need somebody above 80. You can't bring this kid. Labor ministry will have me arrested, and I had to come down on my knees and I explain my situation to him, how I'm supporting myself. I have to go to school. If it were not for this condition I found myself in, I wouldn't have to be even thinking about doing private security work. And so when I explained my situation to him, that's how he accepted. But he accepted me on one condition, and he said that you will be here working for me. You'll be here like my son. And when everybody asks you, tell them that you are not security man. You are staying with me. And that's how I accepted. But I was doing the security work. I will go home, and in the evening, I come to work. I wash a car. Even though I was there doing security work, but I was playing a role like a kid. Someone that stayed with him, wash a cars and things. So when he moved, because he was living around how do you call the place, Broad Street, directly opposite the Providence Baptist. So when he moved in another apartment around Warren Street, they got a building where they had internal affairs, the old internal affairs building. When he moved in that building has its own security. The lot of people, what they do, they rent the building, they got their own security, that take care of the building. So I never had space anymore to do security work. So he asked me, what can I do for you? I said, Chief, the motorcycle riding now is one of the means that most of my friends are using for survival. And so if you can help me to even buy me one second-hand bike, I will appreciate it. That's how he was able to buy me that second-hand bike. And that bike, that's where I got in the motorcycle sector and I started riding. And so after 7 months, I was able to buy another one better than what I was riding. And so that's how I got into the sector and thinking. I started buying brand new bikes for others. So the sector started being so helpful to me. I could go to school, I could pay my own school fee. So that way I got in the motorcycle fees. And so I started helping others, some of my friends who could not afford the motorcycle. I started buying it for them. That's how I got in the field. Again, when I started being a regular motorcyclist, it didn't take long. By 2013, at the end of 2013, 2014, the government came up with this thing, regulation of taking the cyclists from the street. And so it caused serious problems on my back. Started getting missing, police seizing it, you're not getting it. And so I went out of business. And so starting, as an ordinary bike rider, coming back in the community where we don't have the freedom again to move everywhere like we used to. So it started giving me tough time. And I had like 4 different bikes, but I lost all of that. The only one I had was the one I myself on. Some of my riders, ran away with the bike. Some of them bags were taken from them by police. So my business collapsed. So the one that I was riding, the one that I was using, was the one I was surviving on. And so to Jalasan, we had one of our friends that was serving as the chairman. So he was there speaking for the cyclists. And so being under his stewardship, the cyclists started having issues with him. Every time their bag are seized by the police, he will promise that he will go to the police to talk for them. He will give them the hope that yes, I can get it back. And so it started becoming a serious disappointment because he will say things that he will not do. He will promise. And sometimes people come on the motorcycle field, they help out someone resources, oh gentlemen, your bag gas. There is no accountability. So the cyclists had a racing issue. Even myself had a racing issue. So that's how the cyclists said, going forward, we will now choose Yellow Machine and as our new chairman. And so when I became chairman for the motorcyclists, that were ex-combatants, different era, they are no longer riding back. Right now, people who are getting involved with the motorcycle sector are getting involved because of hardship. Are getting involved because no job, the issue of a job in our country is a serious problem. It is no longer the case. It is no longer, you say, oh, I'm an ex-combatant, I apply for a job everywhere, and people don't want to accept me. So, say I've come of fighting war, no one accept me, no, it's no longer the case. Look at the kind of young people that ride back. There are people who have degree, okay, who have education, who have career, but they don't have jobs. So guess what? He said, I will get ride my little motorbike.
Some of them are even in 12 and riding back.
Some of them are schooling, some of them are even supporting their family are riding back. So that scenario or that format on which people got involved with the cycle or the reason for which people going to the bad sector is no longer the case. Chief, take your camera, go at your university campuses. You'll find backpack in their hundreds, in the thousands. Okay, so I mean, some of them, okay, they don't even see the war, right? So they don't see the food. You can't brand everybody. So the issue of a negative perception is one of our problems. Because trust me, no matter how you dress, no matter your status in life, I'm an architect by profession. I draw house plan, I build house. But guess what? Immediately people get to know that I'm a motorcyclist. No, it's not about the career anymore. They just he take the general lot, everyone, they say, oh, you're from the same family. No, it is not the case. So that issue about his state generalization, considering all of us to be bad, that is the major problem I will face. Another thing, the law enforcement officer, that somebody will say motorcyclists are lawless, the constitution don't respect law. I mean, they are violent, they going to take the law in their hand. Chief, the first thing here is that beside the ordinary citizen, even law enforcement officers that should be neutral, take side with the citizen that we are bad people. Take for example, a motorcycle may accident here, maybe he in car, right? You get involved in an accident where his back fell down. That man will be lying on the ground bleeding. A police officer will prefer going get a motorbike first than to think about his life. A police officer or a security officer will say the first thing that will come out of his mouth will say the people are loaded, how they looking. So guess what? You are already prejudged. You are already run up judgment before you start investigation. What happens? Even if you get at the police, whether you wrong or you right, but can what may you will not feel fine because so you are put in a position that we feel rejected, and at that point, you know what happens? Of course, some of them take the law in their hand because they don't feel protected, they don't feel safe going to where the law is supposed to be for everybody. Okay, so these are issues that we face. The issue about considering all to be the same people, that is the major problem that we face.
Okay, you are a leader who is always advocating for motorcyclists. If you are asked what are the main problems in terms of, like you said, not everyone riding motorbike wants to do that. There are some of them who want to do other things. You are a leader. You've been able to assess most of your riders. What do you think if there is a need for any form of empowerment? What do you think motorcyclists need in Liberia, especially those at the disadvantaged levels?
So here's the thing, right? There is a sector, like I just acknowledge that every one of us in the sector are not 100% good. There are bad, there are good people. On the overall, we are good people. Now, if for any reason, if we are asking the government that we have always said, and if for any other reason that people want to help us, chief, most of us that ride it back now, we're not thinking about going back to secondary school. The reason is just simple. You ride back, probably got a kid, or if possible, 2 kids. You have already established family. Your kids are already started going to school. Is it easily possible that I may think about going back to grade school when probably his son or his daughter is already in second or third grade, but he have a serious liability on his head? He's supposed to be giving school fees, or be giving rent and the rest of them. So the issue about secondary school, it is most time far from his thought. The best thing that you can do, because at the end of the day, when you make family, trust me, a motorcycle can hold a bag now, right? 2 person can clap on that bag. That energy is there for you to hold that bag. But guess what? You're not thinking about going back to school because you have family, you got the energy now. What government can do, or other people, what kind of help can you get to those kind of people? Vocational education, right? Because the energy that you have riding a bag and making family, taking on his responsibility, the best option now would be vocational education. Because guess what? 10 years after, the energy you have will no longer be available. At that time now, you will have to do less work to be able to take care of his family. So vocational education, the man just need probably just need to connect somebody wire and through electrical knowledge, right? And still be able to take care of his family. You just need to maybe run somebody prep and like plumbing. Vocational education. Vocational education. So at the end of the day, because sometimes trust me, we are riding back. Motorcycle riding has its own stress. Sometimes you ride it back today, day breaks, you don't want to wake up the next day. Your body, the pain, all in it. But guess what? You have a serious burden on your head. You got school fee to pay, you got rent to pay, and the rest. You got all these different responsibility on your head. So guess what? You forced to go there. But chief, if they make a career, eh? Well, you not gotta go screen to carry 20, 30 passenger. If you get one and find say around in your pocket, right? He can use less time and make more money.
Okay.
Because career, I mean, people will pay you, and as a trade man, they are non-trade man. If that man leaves that banana, throwing cartoon, you wanna get it any day. So at the end of the day, when the men don't have career, what happens? He becomes useless in society. The energy is not there anymore. At the end of the day, it goes back in the community.
Are they too willing to accept going to technical institutions?
Yes,
Because there are many people who will want those things, but then when they come, they feel that it's a that white people money, that our country money, we not care, we'll go there, they don't want to go there, just like that. But anyway, on the overall, before we leave you on this, what's your message? What's your advice to motorcyclists, especially motorcyclists, because you spend years and years in that sector? What's your advice to them?
my advice to motorcyclists is that you don't have to wait for people to help you. No, there are certain things that nobody got to tell you. Sometimes you got to. Today, I have a career, right? I entered the bar fee when I graduated from high school. Imagine as a president for the graduating class. I never needed somebody to tell me that, Chokon, you have to go to university, or you have to go to career program, you have to go to trade school, you have to finish school, you have to advance yourself, you have to go to you have to expand, because the society that we live in, people I mean the young people are learning new things every day. So nobody told me to do that. My advice to fellow motorcyclists, whether you get help, whether you get external help, the little motorcycle that you riding, chief, problem will not finish. Children's school fee will not, when you got child, you will not start paying that school fees. That school fee will bother you in your old age, because you still have to send that child to university. Right? You will still have a family, whether that your mother, whether that your girlfriend, or that your wife. This responsibility don't end. The same way our parents are taking care of us until they die, that's the same way you are going to be taking care of your family. So if you say you want to solve all of your problems, before you find something that will empower you tomorrow, you'll be getting it wrong. You will still be useless. So my advice to you is that raise some resources. The same money you can use to give it to your wife, give it to your girlfriend, and say, oh, go to school, go give food money, the rest of them. You can put something somewhere and start going, start learning some kind of career somewhere. Because that's what will happen. When you get career, then you will start to realize that all the energy are extracted in riding motorcycle. Making carry passenger, fighting for passenger. All that energy you will reserve it. You'll be using your skill. You'll be using less energy now. Then now you will start to realize that for all the years I make on the motorcycle fee, if I had taken this decision, I think by now I've gone far. Because motorcycle is not a reliable, it's not a career in the first place. It's just a stepping stone to get to your next destination. So you can't say, I mean, because probably you raise some resources now that you want to take care of your family. This is not reliable. I mean, the energy can be a charge on a daily basis. So my advice to them is that find something to do. Right? Most especially career program. Because trust me, all the time I've been in this country, I've been in motorcycle leadership more than 10 years. I pass everywhere in the country. I never see a single vacancy or somebody looking for a motorcycle rider. That is that a career. So it's just a stepping stone.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we've listened to Mr. Trukon Gray again. I think we're going to continue. So we're going to continue listening to Mr. Gray. We've listened to Mr. Trocon Gray and such a sad story again. And the reason why we decided to share his story again, because this is a typical example of a very good young adult who who because of his interest and the fact that he wanted to succeed, he became a chairperson, one of the chairman for the motorcyclist union. And if you look at his story, he could not afford school fees, and because of that, he was taken to this Lebanese businessman. And because he was underage, the businessman did not want to accept him, but he had to beg for an adult job as a security. He ended up washing the person's car, even though doing the same security job underage. So that means this person was determined to succeed. Whereas we're here in America, we have jobs, and sometimes we take everything for granted. But this is a young man that wants to succeed. And he did not only want to succeed because of himself. What he also did was he begged this Lebanese man. Businessman was so kind to give him a used motorcycle, and he used that to buy, and because he generated saved enough money, he was able to buy some motorcycles, and then took it and gave it to some of his friends so that they can succeed. And as you learn from him, there are a lot of they are going through a lot of struggles. The fact that there's some negative perception when it comes to, as soon as you say you're a motorcyclist, people and people start frowning on you. And also it is so, people, they are being prejudged. For instance, he stated in his story that even when an accident occur, the first thing an police officer will look at first will be the motorcyclist to seize it, instead of looking at him, the person who is a motorcyclist that were injured uh, uh, during the particular accident. And the feeling of rejection is just terrible. And to feel that you are in your country, your own country, but you feel rejected. And if you look at it, he really spoke, his story sharing was really balanced, because he also talked about he talked about the pros, he talked about the cons, talk about, yes, they have a lot of bad motorcyclists. Some of them are criminals. Some of them do very bad things, but also they have very good ones like him. And so he was, giving some suggestion regarding, uh and he was part of the union leaders that were against, I think, the government. There was something, some regulation, some during the 2013, it was stated that they should take them off. Motorcyclists should be banned. And now what they now fighting, the next challenge is that the no-go zone area, because there's certain areas I think the government don't want for them to go. Even though that's an area, a money-making area, or maybe a hot area that will get a lot of passengers, but the government have their own reasons why. And if the government say, even in the states here, if you're not supposed to go somewhere, you're driving in DC, you're not supposed to be there, they will block that road for you not to go. But was it communicated to them in a way that they understand, or was it from their union to them? We don't know the whole story. But we have other questions here, because he's leading a campaign against this no zone area. And I don't know whether the federal union for motorcyclists are part of this. We don't know. However, we're gonna go quickly. And then part of the thing, he was requesting that they need help, and he also appealed to his fellow motorcyclists that do not just, and they call it in Liberia pen sometimes, do not just ride and make money and spend. Also ride, make money, save, think about going to school. Don't wait for the government to help you, help yourself. He suggested having some vocational skill. But we have today, we're in law again, well, discussing the same topic last week, but we see that it's very important that we share his story, because we have a lot of these fellows that are good, but they don't have the opportunities. They don't have it at all, and they need help at these vocational schools. Maybe, as we go through the discussion, we'll see some of the questions that were asked, and we know that our own reverend law will be able to address some of these questions. But before we go to the question, I would just want to, because we're just going to listen to one, Mr. Gray today, because he's a leader and he's in this no-go zone campaign. He made some very good suggestions. He also talked about different things that we all know, that it hurt you to be, to have a, someone just seeing you and rejecting you because someone else did something bad, and you all are part of the same group. So I'll ask Reverend Lord to listen to what Reverend Lord has to say, and then the next thing would do is to go to look at the questions and see how best we can answer few, and then call it a day. Reverend Lord, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Kier. I just pensively, listen, pensively and attentively listen to Yellow Machine or Brother Gray, as he so eloquently educated us on the existing situation in Liberia, and also narrated his own journey in the process. He's a very I just like to commend him for being a determined individual, because you can see from his statement, it's highly characterized by determination. Determination got him to where he is. He's a young man who, if he had more resources, he would do a whole lot for himself and for others. So that's a clear example of some of the things that are lacking in our society that we need to galvanize our effort around, to make sure that we create more opportunities for individuals who have the dying need to make progress, and also to become valuable asset to our society, which Mr. Gray is at this present time. I want to commend him for what he's doing, and we pray that more doors will open, and for him to be able to be a person that will create more opportunities for those who are around him. So we see here in his statement that certain things that he highlighted in his statement, that are some of the I want to say challenges that these motorcyclists are facing in Liberia. And there are two sides of the coins. You see, motorcyclists, they have they're the negative side of their the vocation that they are engaged in, or their activity, and also there's a positive side to what they are doing. And so therefore it's important that we weigh these two sides and see where it can be a neutral ground, that they can also be benefactors, and also and the society can also benefit from their presence, because they are needed in Liberia. So he noted that the issue, the one of the high challenges that they face is negative bias. They face the issue of negative bias. A lot of negativity are thrown to them because of what they do. And I know usually probably these resentments are based on certain past experience with an individual, or probably the nuisance that they cause as they go along the road and moving back and forth. And sometimes it's kind of very annoying. I was in Liberia, and I saw that it'd be annoying as they go between the cars, and with all regard for the motorists and so forth like that, and the pedestrians, and risking their own lives. So these the flaws to what they do also, like I stated. But negative bias is one thing that is not encouraging for individuals who are striving to earn a living. Right, and this means that they should be guided, and they should be put in on the right path towards being the better contributors to society based on the services that they are currently providing. Also, what I see here also is stated or implied the lack of dignity of labor, and so people who see them don't respect the fact that they are laboring for the income. That they should be given the respect. Because they value the dignity of labor, and so no labor, justifiable or labor that is done with a heart of integrity should be considered to be without dignity. Every labor that is done with integrity, done with proudness of the work they are doing, with pride for work, and the value for hard work, that is a dignified endeavor. and so it must be respected. But he raised the point that they are not respected at all. So these are things that the Liberian society and all those who are Liberians need to look at and to begin to give them respect. So it's very important that the notion that individuals have of themselves will influence their character and in the way they relate to others. So it's very important. And so it's a psychological effect on those motorcyclists, and so they react in a certain way to the way they are perceived. So that one thing very important that he raised there, that one of the problems I see that exists. And then because rejection, he talked about rejection. All right. So, but rejection breeds rebuttal and also and resistance. So therefore, you see, they are resisting. He stated that he one of those advocating against the no-go zone that the government had imposed and proposed to impose. And I was reading, there was a memorandum of understanding that was signed some time ago with the police department and the motorcyclists, and
Okay, I think Reverend Lloyd have a little technical problem. He's coming back on the platform, but we really want to take a look at some of the questions that were asked. And some of the questions that were asked during the during the discussion last week had to do with someone from England was asking what are some of the main um, reasons behind the Liberian government decision when it comes to the no-go zone within no-go zone area, and is that a means of phasing out the motorcyclist? And I think mo- one of the reasons could be that traffic jam in Monrovia, traffic jam. It could be the crime rate. If you look at our cities, and since I was there are no real structural roads where there are roads for motorcyclists, and I don't know whether we have regulations in place or how it was communicated to them regarding that this is a no-go zone, because since they have a union now, and they have from the union they have the form of federation. So I don't know how that information was how it was structured, and how if it was made from top to bottom, how it went from the federation to, I mean, the entire motorcyclist community. So I don't know how that was done. So if it was not communicated, it was not a meeting that was had for partnership and showing them, letting them know the importance of a certain area, because even in the Western world, there's a certain area you cannot carry your motorcycle, it's not even your car. So if the government said this area is a no zone motorcycle, no motorcycles area, I think that should be well respected, because you need to abide by the rules and regulations of your country. You can't just sit there and think that when the government says this is no zone, that should be respected, because the government knows exactly what they're talking about. They are the authority, but I'm just looking at how this is communicated for them to understand. Because it's one thing to say something, to make rules correctly, it's another thing how you implement it, create awareness, and enforce it. So if they are against the way forth, that's one. You can't just say I'm against it. So that I don't agree. Reverend Lloyd, I want to take this time to welcome you back. We just went quickly to the questions, and this question was from an individual from England. They're saying that they wanted to understand the reasons behind the Liberian government decision when it comes to the no-go zone area for the motorcyclists, and also um, how was that particular communicate? How about what the rule or that particular rule communicated to the motorcyclists? I was saying that in the Western world, even in the United States, and when there are certain areas in Washington D.C. that motorcyclists cannot go there, private ones or business motorcyclists cannot be there. Maybe even a car, even you cannot drive in a particular area. So to me, if a government that rules the country that have responsibility for the country will say this area is a no-go area, I think as a citizen of that particular country, a law-abiding citizen, you should abide by it. But I'm also thinking that how was it communicated? Did it come from the federal union to all the various unions to them, or maybe that they are not aware of it? Because Mr. Gray was saying that he's one of the campaigner for against the no-go zone area, and I'm saying that as a law-abiding citizen of your country, the government knows the reason why. Maybe there's high traffic in that area. Maybe that's an area where they have public offices and they don't need that there. And if you look at the road construction, the structure, the framework of the road in Liberia, we don't have any road designed for motorcyclists, and the roads they're very narrow, and there's no space for you to have that. So maybe that's a reason why. I don't know. But if a government, if we have a responsibility as citizens of a country, and we have to abide by the rules and regulation, but maybe how it was communicated, maybe it was not communicated, it was just executed. I don't know. So that's where we are. You can pick up from them, Mr. Dr. Lloyd.
Yeah, I just want to apologize for the brief internet eruption, the internet disruption that occurred. But we'll go ahead and continue. In response to that question, that's a very good question, because and why it's a good question, because it brings us to question or to be able to think about the process through which these regulations were advanced or established or proposed to the public at large. And usually these kind of drastic transitions or rapid transition will have to go through phases. Given the fact that motorcycling emerged as one of the key economic activity within the commercial sector of Liberia after the Civil War, served as a means of income for a lot of marginalized ex-combatants who could not find employment, and so they resigned to motorcycling to earn an income, which is an earnest form of living. But what happened is that, given the fact that they were ex-combatants growing up in a lawless society because of the war, they were breakdown of law and order due to the war. It's not to their fault or the fault to anyone else, but because of that, they emerged into this sector without the consciousness of regulations, traffic rules, and traffic etiquette, and having respect for individuals who share the traffic space and all those things. There were no institutionalized system that could have guided them and structured them in the performance of their services. So therefore, they came into this sector without any kind of guidance. So therefore, it led to having adverse effects on society as a whole. And so therefore, based on the activities that were ignoring, so therefore they were considered to be a nuisance, and therefore a lot of resentment was thrown to them, right? But in directly dealing with the question of how this rule and regulation came into place, I was just going to get a ground and clear understanding of what led to this entire situation. And so therefore, given the existing situation in Liberia, the officials should understand the history or the genesis of motorcycling in Liberia, what fueled it, all right, and the impact it has on society, and the kind of value it has to the life of those who are participants of this commercialized activity. So therefore, they should be able to understand that. And given the fact that there is a post-war challenge that the government is facing, they have to be able to put that into phases. I don't know how they did it, but if the last broadcast I stated that the rules and regulations should be brought in. All right, it should be interjected into society in phases. Right. So, like I say, I was saying before I went off abruptly, is that I know there was a memorandum of understanding between law enforcement and the motorcyclists some time ago to be able to phase into these laws in society because they are necessary. And the fact is that there should be a no-ride or no-go zone in certain parts of the city. Every modern society have established that law for safety and for other pertinent and societal reasons. It's not necessary for those motorcycles to go into certain areas, especially on a commercialized basis. All right. So therefore, but it given the reason why motorcycling emerged in Liberia, there should be a high consideration for these individuals, and a lot of respect should be shown to them in the process. They should be a part and parcel of the entire transitional process that the government is trying to establish to be able to bring the sense of normalcy back into the heart of the city. All right. So I understand what the government is trying to do, but also we also must understand the needs of these individuals also. And if you abruptly stop income from flowing and to them, then they may probably resort in alternative way of earning, which may be detrimental to society. So what I'm saying here is that they should face it in, meet with them and say, okay, for example, in the next 12 months or in the next 24 months, this area will be declared a no-go zone. And these are the reasons why it will be declared a no-go zone. And so, and we want your cooperation on this, but we will drastically enforce the law after this period of time. And also the government should just not stop there. Begin to provide incentive to the motorcyclists who will be losing income because of the no-go zone, because those areas, they transport individuals there, so therefore it will affect the commerce in society as a whole, because the motorcyclists play a very key role to commerce. They transport goods and services from one place to another. They transport individuals to one place and another. So they play a key role in the commercialized system of the urban area in Liberia. So you cannot ignore that. All right. So if a zone is cut off, that means that the stores and other individuals who need certain services and that are connected or are tributary services that come out of motorcycling, then those other sectors will be affected. So all these need to be taken into consideration, not just cutting off the zone. No. It's very important that a study must be done and see how they can phase it in, and then be able to negotiate with the stakeholders and then come to a conclusion, and then have it phase in and go through phases. In that way, you will not have no advocacy coming up. You see, Brother Gray said that he wanted to advocate against the no-go zone. So I want to assume, I may be wrong, but I want to assume that it was done abruptly and there was no phasing in of these rules and regulations. So that's why you have rebuttal, resentment to the change. I got the change was just abrupt, and so therefore this resentment occurred. So that's a very good question. So we then need to probably check with the government of Liberia and see if it, and then they go back to the drawing board, negotiate with the motorcyclists and see how they can phase it in. The laws are necessary; they are needed, especially in the urban areas, in the city area. Those laws are needed to be able to get the city back to a cosmopolitan character again, and so that you have investors and visitors and tourists who come to Liberia will have some level of comfort, have some feel of westernization when they enter the Moravia city. and it's very important for the growth and economic growth of the nation. Is important that those rules and regulations are adhered to. But we want to say that the citizens must be taken into consideration. Their needs, their cries should be heard, and then also the circumstances under which they operate must be taken under serious consideration.
I think last week we talked about those who import motorcycles, and they are still selling. These individuals are still selling motorcycles to the Liberian young adults who are in the business. And if you are instituting rules and regulation to ensure that a no go zone area, or maybe phasing out the whole motorcycle within Monrovia, I think is also important, as we stated, that those that are importing, the business people, Lebanese or Indians that are bringing it in, should also be part of the discussion. That it is important that when it comes to training, it is also important that the sale also should stop, minimize, instead of importing more. They also should stop selling it, because what's the need of you saying that don't sell in this area, or we're going to be phasing out you, the motorcyclists, you, the users, because you want to be able to, you are a youth, and now today you find yourself having a young adult having children, or youth having children, and you became a father or mother. And now I'm I'm a Lebanese or Indian business person selling my motorcycle. You go and buy it. You've lost money if that no go zone area comes in, or maybe Monrovia as a whole phases out to say this area where you cannot ride. So I don't know. The person is asking whether there are other alternative employment opportunities by the government proposed to the motorcyclists that will be impacted in the Monrovia area. And if that's the case, what are some of the measures that have been put in place to ensure the safety and financial stability of these motorcyclists during this whole no-go zone area, or maybe transitioning from Monrovia to other areas outside of Monrovia? Whether that has really been taken into consideration, because these are youth that became parents, and parenting comes with responsibility, and it goes on, meaning when you're taking care of a child because you brought that child on earth, that means you have to forget about yourself. So what are the government has that facing out? And then I think it should be done in collaboration of the importers of these things, these business people. I don't even think, got a lot of accidents in Monrovia when it started because they were only selling but not even providing any training. There were no safety when it comes to Hamlet, nothing. They just sell it, make their money, whether you bought it, you've been killed, or you kill someone, that's up to you. The young adult in Liberia who is a motorcyclist is being held responsible for having that accident, which of course they were not even trained, because when you want to become a driver, you have to go through a process to get a driver license. Meaning, whosoever the government institution that is issuing the license for you to drive, give you that authority to drive, they've already gone through you. They made sure that you went through a training, and so they gave you the license to drive. I don't know whether these sellers of this business, whether they have instituted a training section, or whether they work with a transportation ministry to issue a license and say, yeah, this person can drive, and give them the protective gear that they can use to avoid all these accidents, and even having accident and they being so injured. I don't know that whether that was done from the initial stage. And even if they say no go zone area, they're going to tell the Lebanese or Indian man, look, start bringing this thing there. You usually bring 100,000. We're cutting it down to 50,000 because we don't need it in Monrovia anymore. So everyone needs to play their role. So the question here is, One, whether during the whole phasing or no-go zone area, what are the other employment opportunities for that were proposed to the union by the government for these motorcyclists, and also what are some of the measures that are being put in place to ensure the safety and financial stability of these motorcyclists during this no-go zone area or phasing out area.
All right, Monica, I just want to come in with that. Very good question. Be asking what kind of incentives have they provide at the government of Liberia probably contemplating providing, or they have provided to serve as an alternative, or to serve as a means through which these motorcyclists can transition into other vocations and services. And then so that they will remain vital to the economic growth of Liberia. And that's a very good question. And that's a question basically that we need to bring on probably someone from the Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of Transportation on this show, so that they can be able to adequately give a perspective from the government point of view on what is happening and what they are doing, to be able to address this major concern that exists in Liberia. You see, and the issue of ensuring that incentive that will enhance the transition when it comes to vocational transition of these combatants, we have to go back and understand where we are as a nation, and what threat this has to the nation. The government refuses to put serious attention to this pertinent and pressing issue. And about 175 to 200,000 of these motorcyclists who are engaged in this commercial activity are ex-combatant or youth that have been afflicted by civil war. All right, and they may not be directly ex-combatants, but also are youth that have been afflicted by the Civil War. All right, so most of these young men that grew up in the time of the war or the post-war period, and where there have been a breakdown in society, the breakdown in resources and opportunities in the nation. So that are part of some of the affliction that they face, especially the youth. So therefore, motorcycles have become a key commercial activity for this group of people, and that's why you see. And then also these group of people, as they engage in motorcycling, form a social political foundation or a social political group, right? That is very powerful and opinionated. And most of the politicians, probably in Liberia, if you notice, they try to appease them because they know that they are a key voting bloc. Also, you have over 200,000 of these individuals, and so they seem to be united in a sense, and they seem to be political advocates as youth, and so motorcycles serve as a mobilization ground for these individuals. So it's key, politicians and socialists or Liberian social scientists to be taking key note of this here. It's not, it's very important you have a group of people. Also, the motorcyclists serve as a huge market for these foreign investors, because they are the ones that buying these motorcycles that come into the nation. So it's a huge market for them, and also it's a huge tax generating area or source for the Liberian government, also for the corrupt police officers in the street. It's a source of, it's a pop boarding I want to say the pop boarding avenue for them, because they can go out and how they can get the food pot boarding at home. But they start 1 or 2 motorcycles and get money. So the motorcyclists play a very important economic role in the society of Liberia today. So you cannot underestimate them at all. All right. So therefore, it's important that we take this keynote. Also for the investors, the question that we talk about those investors, those importers of motorcycles. They are benefiting hugely financially and economically from these motorcyclists, because they are the primary market. that they sell these goods to. So therefore, the source of revenue, the source of profit comes directly from them. And so therefore, also, as an investor coming into a nation, you are part and parcel to the economic growth of that nation. And the host country should make you aware of that, and that you have to contribute immensely to the economic and social development of that nation. It's very important. It's not something, and so the one thing I see that is lacking in Liberia, and when it comes to policy decision making and policy implementation in Liberia, when in the area of commerce and foreign investors, they do not hold the foreign investors accountable when it comes to their interjecting into the society positively, financially, and causing causing a serious and positive and economic impact on the nation as a whole from the investment in Liberia. That's one of the reasons they come in. They come as our economic partners, basically, and they should be aware of that, and they should be held responsible and accountable if they fail to contribute, only to suck out and not to pour in. They must equally, it must be at the equilibrium, basically. They must be able to put in, they must be able to take out, and at an equilibrium level. All right, it's very important, and the Liberian government should stress it. So now, this issue with the motorcyclists, those foreign investors who are bringing in motorcycles, they are key stakeholders here. They should be able to help to provide some of the funds that are needed to be able to get institutions that will provide vocational education to these individuals, so that they will be able to successfully transition into other sectors of the society to become very viable citizens. Very important, because they have lives that depend on them, lives that depend on the motorcycle business that they are doing. So you can just cut that off. No, you can't just do that. You have to have consideration for them. And so therefore, these investors, make sure that the government needs to hold them accountable, hold their feet to the fire. I rhetorically say most of the time, hold their feet to the fire, so that they will be able to give some money to support and to be able to assist that sector, basically. And also be able to impose upon them, right? And the need to start importing safety gears and other highly safety and more improved mobility instruments that I stated the last time, so that these motorcycles will be able to transition. You see, necessity is the mother of invention, basically. Also, demand will fuel commerce. So it is important if the government sit with these folks and say, look, okay, you stop importing motorcycles, or then you put it on probably on the reduced level, and begin to interject in and be able to put in other vehicles that these motorcyclists can purchase that are more safe, that also can be able to be beneficial and also be able to be acceptable into the urban areas. And then gradually you will see that the change will occur. The motorcycle will start phasing out, and then these new vehicles and acceptable means of transportation will phase in, and these individuals will be able to afford these new vehicles that will be imported, and then equally you have a system of transition that will be smooth. It's just a matter of policy, a matter of rigid implementation. That's all is not all needed. But stigmatizing and rejection and taking advantage of these individuals and unlawful act, unjustifiable act towards them is not the solution. They are key stakeholders in the economic sector of Liberia, because they play a key role. Basically, you're talking about 200,000 individuals that have a market system that they have been working with for some time, and for you to just abruptly cut it off, and I don't think it's a very positive move. I want to put it in that manner, and then other terms. But I don't think it's a very positive move to be able to engage in an abrupt implementation of a law. But you should go through a process, as I'm trying to state constantly. So therefore, like I said, the importers and the foreign business people that engage in this commerce should be able to take into serious consideration. Also, those who are who are the market as a whole, right? Individuals who are purchasing from these individuals need to galvanize their effort and make a demand and say, look, you guys need to contribute, otherwise we will stop selling, we'll stop purchasing your goods. And they would be threatening, that would cause a serious economic problem. And so therefore, there are strength, the motorcyclists have strength, right? And also the importers have strength. Then they converge on the table of negotiation. And with the government of Liberia helping, seriously providing the means and the incentive, and you will see the changes that will occur. So basically, I don't see any kind of institution that have been established, I may be wrong, by the government of Liberia so far, on alternative vocational education that will assist these individuals to transition. I've not seen that yet. Maybe it's in the making. I trust the current government is working very assiduously to address these major concerns that are currently existing in society today. So I know that if it's not in existence, it's in the making. I want to give that benefit of the doubt that it's in the making. That institutions that will emerge, that will be sensible policies, that will be advanced to address this area, and there will be some sentimental attitude towards the motorcyclists, and some exercise of dignity of labor, and also some gratitude to them for the services they have been providing over the years. Although the services are not needed at a certain time now, it was hardly needed before, but they should be given gratitude for what they have been doing so far in bridging that mobility gap that existed in the urban areas due to the conditions of the Civil War.
Thank you. And so, for every commodity that is sold, there's a demand for it. And so, for the motorcyclists, we have riders. They have their own customer base, and that's the reason why they're able to generate income uh, to support their families. It's because if you are buying a product and the product cannot give you the revenue that is needed to continue to run the particular business, that means it's not a good business. But thus far, as I hear and see, the motorcycle pimping is a good business, and because the riders, the motorcyclists are making money out of it, and so therefore there's a ripple effect because I don't know whether we can count how many millionaires we have in Liberia, so a lot of people may depend on public on these transportation, these private transportation. They would depend on if you have maybe a van that is going, that van would be slow because it's bigger, it cannot maneuver its way. And then if you go into to work, you might easily want to take maybe a little taxi that is maybe faster than a bigger bus or small medium bus. But the pimping or the motorcycle is the one that really can maneuver faster and take you where you're going. So also what needs to be taken into consideration before zooming out or no zoom area or facing out also is the population that uses this motorcycle. Because I know there are a lot of different negative impact. One, criminals are using it and killing people, robbing people, all kind of bad thing. So that's the reason why there's so much negativity when it comes to this. I'm a pimping rider, I'm a motorcyclist. People just look at you because you got people that using it and committing crime. So if you are a motorcyclist and you are listening and you have any bad apples amidst you, report them to the police because you don't want others to spoil your institution or your business. Okay, now I don't know whether there was a survey or how was it communicated to the areas of the no zone area, that particular area here. It's particular 2, 4, 5, 6 cities or districts. You cannot ride any motorcycle around here, and maybe the people who cannot afford to take any transportation, they can't afford the taxi. The bus is so slow. Whether they were taking into consideration. So this person that asked the question from I just took it from the chat is that how will the phasing out of motorcyclists affect the overall economy of the country, especially for uh, um, individuals that rely, because there's a reliant on this particular service that's been provided. And that's why we have a lot of people in the business, because if they were not making the profit, a lot of people would not be in the business. So I don't know whether that was taken into consideration, like the riders, the service users, whether that was taken into consideration, and how will it impact the overall economy of Liberia, particularly in terms of informal employment for these people, and then their children that they are serviced, their children that school fees are being paid, and through this particular service they are paying their rent, and their livelihood. So I don't know whether how will that impact the overall economy of Liberia when it comes to the users, and when it comes to those that are using it, users of the service, and then as a form of employment and form of livelihood for these motorcyclists.
Yeah, okay. Basically, that's a very good question. And how would this abrupt implementation of these rules and regulations that as relates to the no go zone will affect commerce and the economic viability of these individuals? One thing is that you see the motorcycle provide the movement of goods and services, right? So that will affect if the movement of goods and services in a particular area or in the large area is abruptly interrupted. That will lead to the scarcity of goods and services in that particular area. And the scarcity can lead to price increase. And when it leads to price increase, it leads to a high level of unaffordability. And then it leads to different social ills. So you see, and so usually in the Western world, you will see here that, for example, you have these trucks that you see on the highway constantly at night, at day. Those trucks are those trucks that keep goods on the shelves in the major stores that you go and purchase and bring into your home to meet your needs and so forth, and also to enhance your livelihood. And you see that usually when there's abrupt interruption in the flow of these trucks, you see how the shelves in the supermarkets, we go to the supermarket and there's nothing on the shelf. You see goods and services prices start to go up. Also, for example, if gas prices go up, the transportation of those goods and services goes up and prices goes up. And so you see the ripple effect that it has. So therefore, the abrupt in Liberia is the same thing. That's the economic 101. It applies all over. And so therefore, if the cut of goods and services which are heavily dependent upon the motorcyclists, the movement of these goods and services which are heavily dependent upon the motorcyclists, that will lead to the increase in price and increase in demand of the goods and services, and also will deprive people of certain goods and services that are pertinent to their livelihood. All right, and therefore it has affect commerce in a particular area, and so it has a whole lot of contributors, I would say, to negative contributors to these to the abrupt interruption in this good and in the motorcycle is getting from one area to another. You have individuals who have been providing these services for years. You have not interjected any alternative to the movement of these goods and services. So you have an alternative for these goods and services to get to the areas that the folks are providing these services for, and then you can go ahead and stop them from going into those areas, and because you will not interrupt the wheel of economy or the wheel of commerce in that area. You will not affect that. Therefore, the ripple effects that emerge from that will not be seen. It would not be felt. All right. So these are the consequences of that if it's abrupt. And so the government cannot just abruptly stop them from going to places, and they have to set up a plan and have to be structured. Also, on the other hand, when Madam K was talking about the negative impact of motorcycles, some of the the social ills that emerge other motorcyclists, and when it comes to crime and using that to commit crime and other and cause nuisance in society. That's why you have the organizations. That's why it's important that they organize themselves. You have existing organizations that they have established. You have leaders, and not only establishing to advocate for yourself, but advocate and establishing to create a structure, right, and create bylaws and procedures and policies that those who are in your organization must abide by, so that you can maintain the integrity of the organization or the integrity of the vocation of that commercial activity or that service that you are providing. That's what the organizations are for. That's what you're organizing for. Not only to advocate against government, but to structure yourself, to maintain your integrity, and also to be able to improve and enhance the commercialization of your service. Those are some of the reason why you are organized. And also that you be a power broker, all right, and to the established system when there are the rules and regulations that you feel are unjust, and so therefore you often galvanize and be able to advocate for yourselves in a very peaceful and a very lawful manner by sitting at the table and speaking with government officials and presenting your problems to them so that they can look at those problems and try to provide redress and or address those problems in an adequate manner, adequate and respectful manner. So that's what you are organized for. So the organization should be one of those who are helping law enforcement in order to bring the crime down that created by motorcycle or that emerged out of the motorcycles industry in Liberia. And so you all should be part and parcel of the peace building process in Liberia, part and parcel of law and order in Liberia. And then, therefore, some of the negative reaction you have, some of the resentment that you have, and some of the negative bias that are thrown towards you guys will be diminished, because they will see you as a very respectable partner in society. And so, therefore, that's why the leaders of the motorcycle association or organization must be able to interject into that organization and build the rapport and dignity of that service that you are providing. It's very important, and because I see that you have the very intelligent individuals in there, because you see folks who are going to school, but they use it as a means of income, and so therefore use your knowledge that you are gained to be able to bring that into that sector, so that sector will grow and become a respectable part of the economy of that country. And then see how you can negotiate with the government of Liberia so that you can be able to sectionalize your industry when it comes to the rural areas, the areas that you will be running, all those rules and regulations that are designed to be able to regulate your activity in the nation. You should be part and parcel of that decision-making process. You should not be excluded from the decision-making process when it comes to, because you are a key stakeholder, and you remain a key stakeholder, especially in a Western country, in a West African country that has gone through civil war, and a country that has been considered one of the poorest nations in the world, and that has a very high illiteracy and unemployment rate. And so these unconventional commercialized activities are key to the livelihood of majority of the population. And the government of Liberia cannot ignore that. All right, and so and it's a very crucial part of our existence, and we need to be able to address it in a sensible and systematic way, with a high level of sensibility in the process of that. So those are some of the repercussions to an abrupt implementation of a no go or no ride zone, or whatever it may be called. There are some of the repercussions to that. So as I say, and I will continue to state that those rules and regulations must be phased in. They are important, they are necessary, they are needed, but given the circumstances, they must be phased in instead of abruptly interjected or imposed upon those marginalized individuals that are struggling in their weak way to contribute to society in the way they see fit and possible. That's what you see. So I think this present administration will adequately address this matter. I have confidence in this administration that they will look at they will pensively look at this situation and be able to come up with sensible solutions.
Yes, I want to say thank you for that. And we know that to get this information and sharing of stories from our brothers and sisters in Liberia has become some challenge, because we have some individuals living in the diaspora going there and recording, and according to them, they've been using it to make money. And I just want to say that the aim of the Liberian View, recording this and sharing your stories, we want to use it to create an awareness uh, from the government, to see it from to view it from another platform, that these are the challenges and this is how we see it in the diaspora, so that we can be more supportive of it. But notwithstanding, if it is a system that is in place and is causing a problem for the government in Liberia, we are not for it. If the government have rules and regulations in place and say that this area is a no zone area, as law abiding citizens of Liberia, we should abide by those rules and regulations. However, we are not aware as to how the policy the policy flows from the government, because I know from the discussion you have a federation, and from the federation, under the federations you have unions. So I don't know how information is being disseminated to create more awareness, to let you know that this area is not a no go zone area for bikes. And I think the government has the right to do that. Whether it was abrupt, as Reverend Dr. Lloyd stated, we're not aware. So if it was abrupt, then that is not a good thing. It needs to be something that is communicated and a deadline be given. We're not aware also whether it was communicated in a way that you will understand and a deadline will be given. So, for instance, if that's the case, it was communicated well and a deadline was given, then you abide by those rules and regulations. So there's no need you campaigning against if the government say, oh, no motorbikes should come in this area. And I'm sure the government, as Law stated, we have confidence in this government that they will do the right thing. They just been seated and they're trying to make sure that things work well. So if it were communicated clearly, but then you just want to campaign against it, then I think that's something you guys need to go back on the drawing board and see what that's the right thing to do. But if you're phasing out and stopping me from getting what the money to feed my children, then the question will be, what are some of the other alternatives that you have as a government, or what are some of the other alternatives that those who are importing such services, such equipment to be used to service the Liberian people? What are some of the alternatives that they can, like Lord rightly stated, other upgraded safe small size more efficient motorcyclists that they can bring in, that will be able to that at least these motorcyclists can use. And someone was just talking about whether I mean, I know that they have motorcyclists in Ghana, they have it in Nigeria, I think they have it in different African countries. And I don't know, one, I'm sure they have no zone area, like there's no zone area. This is an area that is set aside that motorcyclists cannot come. So I don't know whether the person is asking that they were concerned, or maybe they want to know whether the government of Liberia facing this a particular motorcycle, or coming up to say this area is a no zone motorcyclist area, and or in the process of discussing or phasing the motorcyclists out of Monrovia. Whether it's a lesson learned from other countries that they have implemented similar policies regarding phasing out of motorcyclists or creating a no zone area. Whether it was a study from maybe South Africa, maybe from our neighboring country in especially like Ghana, Nigeria, maybe they're doing the same thing in Sierra Leone, or in Guinea. How was that done in Guinea to say this is a no zone area? Because I know there's a certain area around the mansion you're not supposed to take your car. and because of security protection and security purpose for the government officials. So maybe maybe we don't have no zone, no area in Liberia that is it's an area that is a no zone area. Maybe we don't have such an area, so maybe it's a language or phrase that is strange to the pen or the motorcyclist. So maybe you can ride around the cycle, you can carry you can drive around the, how you call it, the executive mansion. You can go there freely with any kind of car. Maybe in Liberia is something that is strange for you to say this is a no zone area. But in most countries that I am aware of, they have no zone area that you cannot drive there. Even in the States here, there are certain areas in DC you cannot drive. It's closed for that day because they have United Nations meeting or some NATO meeting or something like that. And yet instead, there are certain areas that you cannot drive there. So maybe when I was growing up, I didn't see an area in Liberia you can drive if you have a car. So maybe it's a strange phrase. Maybe it need to be introduced that there are certain areas around the mansion you can't just carry your car, or around the Capitol building. Maybe we can start introducing that kind of thing for people to understand what it is when they talk about no zone area. The government is not against you, but this is just an area that they have a lot of government officials, or it's very congested. That means the traffic will be black. People won't be able to go home or go to work on time. So those are some of the discussions. Those are some of the clarities that need to be made by these union folks. Because if you're a union, that means you're collecting money from these, you're collecting some fees from the motorcyclists. So you're supposed to be in a position to call meeting to explain to them what this is all about. So we all, the government and your union people, can be of the understanding and have the clarity that this is not a matter against you as a motorcyclist, but it is a matter that is of national security. And then if you have a union and you have folks that are stealing, they are using the motorcyclists in the night to go and steal and maybe commit a crime, take somebody hard-earned money, their hard-earned passport, their hard-earned glasses. Because I remember one of my friends went to Liberia. They bought her glasses up to $800. They had different use for that glasses, and they mistakenly put it under their over their glove compartment. And before they turned their eyes on Broad Street, it was gone. And that person sent it to someone on a motorcycle, and the motorcycle just went and it disappeared. And that person came from the state or somewhere, or somebody sent it for them. You know, the process in which the person went through to get that. So that's the reason why people are upset in Monrovia. You know, so we need to change our mindset, the way we perceive rules and regulation, the way we think about it. So we need to change our mindset. What am I doing wrong? What can I do to change it? That is, those in your group stealing in the night, call the police on them. If you call a police officer and they're not doing the right thing, maybe go to somebody else in the police that is doing the right thing that will be able to catch these folks and put them in jail. But you can't just campaign and say, I'm a campaign against this particular no zone area. If you maybe you've not spoken, or the union, the federation have not carried your thought as a campaigner and a chairman for one of the union when it comes to motorcyclists, to understand why is this a no zone area. Have that clarity. So having said that, the question was, and part of the discussion contribution from this individual was, have Liberia Transport Ministry or the agency responsible, police, whether they've seen and they've learned from other countries that have implemented similar policy regarding no zone area, or phasing out of the motorcyclists within a particular city or district within their country. If that's the case, that means we need to look at that and see how they phase it out. Is that something that you think? How can you comment on that, Reverend Lloyd?
A very, very excellent question. Basically, I was planning on interjecting that into my later conversation. The motorcycling or commercial motorcycling has been a part of other African countries' transportation system for years. I was in I was in Nigeria in the 90s and also in the 80s. Right, I traveled to Nigeria, and I rode pen in at that time. And that been years ago. I've been over 30 years ago, and they had that. It had motorcyclists filling up mobility gap in those areas, and have been a serious means of transportation for low-income individuals in these countries, West Africa as a whole, Central, North Africa, and all these areas, East Africa also. You travel to those countries, you see motorcyclists there. But they also went through their phases. They went through the time of challenges, and they were able to come up with sensible laws to guard and structure the provision of those services, because they are needed in especially in rural Africa. They are highly needed, and you cannot ignore the need and the gap that they fill when it comes to that. But those countries have had their established rules and regulations. Well, now in Nigeria, the motorcyclists can go to certain areas. And if you look at television, you'll see that they still use that as a means of transportation. All right, in large city areas, but basically in the outskirts of society. And most of these larger countries has a huge market areas that sometimes completely separated from the inner city area, right? So therefore, the motorcycles run in those areas, but in the main cities, they don't go there. So they still have market for the services into large countries, right? And because of the years that I emerged and the experience with that, they had to develop sensible laws to be able to mitigate the problems that emerged from this service and from motorcycling in the commercialized motorcycling in their countries. So that's a very good question. That's something that the Liberian government can look at. And we are part of ECOWAS, and we're part of OEU, So these are the things that member countries should look at, or probably we should be able to partner with neighboring countries or countries that we have seen have very workable rules and regulations and laws that are impacting positively in their society. Like Rwanda, also, you look at Rwanda, they had the same problem at the end of the drastic civil war they had. But see Rwanda right now and where they are and what immense development that happened, and when it comes to, and also look at the social structure that highly impressive. Well, so we can learn from our neighbors. We can learn from those who have more experience in certain areas that we have need for in our country, and then easily we won't have to reinvent the wheel. We'll just have to customize it to fit our need. All right. So therefore, it's very important that that question is made. I'm not aware whether the Liberian government is speaking to those countries. I want to assume that they are contemplating on doing that, and maybe sending some government officials to these countries to maybe stay 1 or 2 weeks and do a seminar, or bring those folks in to do a seminar or training event with the motorcyclists, also with those in the government that are responsible for managing or the policy decision makers in Liberia that directly make policies that affect these motorcyclists. And they invite these folks from favorite country to do a seminar where they can have a Q&A period, where they can be able to look at the real world situation that exists in their country, in Liberia, and see how they can advance solutions to that. So knowledge is power. Learning is the key. So it's very important that we partner on these seminars, these learning activities, training of motorcyclists, and the Ministry of Transportation must ensure that these folks get the right credentials to be able to drive and run business out there. Make sure that they get the right training. Make sure that they obtain the right gear, the helmet and safety equipment that they need, and make sure that those who are importing these motorcycles also make sure that they are concerned about the safety of those who are purchasing their goods and services. Very important. When you purchase cars in the Western world, to make sure that the safety features are there to make sure that you're safe on the road. And so it should be the same. And the government should look out for for his citizens. So therefore, make sure that those folks begin to import helmets. And like I suggested in the last broadcast, that and they should impose that if someone purchases a motorcycle, they must purchase a helmet. The purchase cannot occur; it cannot be completed without a helmet and without safety gears, with the safety vest, the safety helmet. Everything should be purchased. That will help to reduce the fatalities, and that emerged out of reckless motorcycling in Liberia. All right, so and the government should, and that's what I said earlier. These foreign investors must be their feet must be placed to the fire. They must help in this process. They must come in and be major contributors to mitigating the problems that emerged out of motorcycling in Liberia. It's very important. All right, so therefore, I hope we want to propose that if this is not happening, it is not in the works, that the Transportation Ministry, the Ministry of Commerce, those in the legislature in Liberia, will begin negotiating with neighboring countries to see how they can learn from them for the betterment of our nation and the betterment of our people.
Thank you so much. I just also ask that I want to add quickly also that to create an efficient and effective system, like Reverend Dr. Lloyd rightly stated, the importers of these motorcyclists should be part of the union of the Federation of Motorcyclists. They are selling them. They know how to assemble and disassemble them. They should be part of the training processes. They should be part of the training to include safety protections and controls. They should also be able to provide the purchaser's name, and every registered motorcycle with the transportation ministry, whichever ministry it is. If I, for example, go and buy one, Lucy Wilson Kia, I should be responsible for any crime that motorcycle is being used to conduct any crime. So that means that will restrict people from giving their motorcycle that they bought from one Indian person, taking it and giving it and leasing it. Because if you lease your motorcycle, that means you know the name of the person that you lease it to. So if the government of Liberia can, maybe we are available here to provide our expertise when it comes to putting a system in place, a process flow as to how this is like a whole project, how it should work. We should be able to put a framework in place so that criminals can be targeted. I know the infrastructure Liberia is getting there, but we need to really look at these things and have a structure framework in place. How can we structure it so that those to help even the union when it comes to those who use it to go and steal from other people, take their hard-earned money, or even kill? So we need to, all is our responsibility as Liberians, regardless of where you're living. You think you saved and everything, but tomorrow you're going to be old, and your kids that you have in the diaspora will live in Liberia. So we all need to work to make Liberia a safe place. It is not just the responsibility of the government, of the administration, the current one. Is part and parcel of our responsibility to make sure that Liberia is safe. So there should be a framework in place as to who bought this, whose name it is in, who registered it, and the license, the number, the license or plate, whatever is on that should be targeted to someone. So in the day that will be, we have a lot of IT specialists who are Liberians. We need not look for any consultancy from any other country. You bring the young Gen Z together, they can create a system for Liberia so that these people can register and be fingerprinted and be here to curtail all this stealing and taking things from people, and then to make sure that people like Mr. Trocon Gray is not placed in a target of being a criminal, whereas he's a very good young man, educated and striving to be a better citizen. So we need to really all work together to pull out these criminals so that the union can be efficient and be respected. Without any framework, no structure, even the ministries. If there's no structure, there's no structure in place, how communication will flow, what, who authorize what, it will just be a whole mess. So we need to come together and work because we cannot frustrate the Gen Z population. We cannot frustrate them because that, if you look at it, that was the cause of the war. That was the motivation of other people joining to fight this war. That's the cause of insecurity in our country when people feel rejected and dejected. So we need to make sure we have a system in place for that. This is important. It will be like, why are they repeating this? Because it's important. These are thousands and thousands of young adults who have been forced in a sector. And you heard it clearly, Mr. Trocon said it. He said it's not a career. And he's so smart that he said that there is no job application or vacancy anywhere that say we're looking for someone motorcycling. So he told his people and his friends that are listening, this is no career. This is not a profession. It is just a means to an end. So you here today, you save and go to school. He also saying, I don't depend on somebody. Do not use your hard-earned money, your hard labor. You drive the whole day, drive people, carry load. Make sure you save some of that money so you can be able to go to school, register yourself somewhere and look for scholarship. He advised you. So we need to look at, because it's really, as a mother, it really pained my heart to listen to his story. He did not have the opportunity. He did not have parents in his life. He started working as a security at the age, I think, of age of 11. Because you know what? He wanted to be somebody. And he's so selfless also. When he became somebody, he succeeded in it. He started buying motorcycle for his friends so that they all can make money and get out of the street. The Liberian view fear is that if they are phased out in a way that is rushed, they may go back in the street and commit crimes because they are idle, because they want for the children to eat. How will they feed the children? So we need to revisit and see how best the importers, especially that are making all the money, because they bring it to Liberia, they send it 3,500 for just one, and you know how much they buy from the country. They make all that money, but there's nothing invested in the institution that they have created. So the government need to hold them responsible so that they can give back to these people all the monies they've been making all these years. And even to contribute to the road infrastructure in Liberia, because they are bringing this thing in and it's being used on the road. And they are making their money. I know they've been taxed. I don't know whether they're paying their taxes. They should be, but they should be able to, when it comes to protection, the hamlet, and anything that needs to be a protective gear to be worn, these Lebanese or Indian, whoever importing these things, need to be held accountable. And if there's a phasing out or there is a no-zone area, their quantity of importation also need to be revisited, whether that's the quantity we still need in Liberia. So it cannot just be on those that are using it as a means to feed their family. So to me, that's something that I think we need to take away from this discussion, because it's very important. If one sector of our Liberian, the Gen Z especially, I mean, we will look down on them, we'll call them names, but these people can make life very miserable for us in Liberia. So we need to be able to talk about these things. They're difficult topics. Because someone was telling me, oh, you're talking about this thing, you know that's a problem. It is already a problem, so we need to talk about it. It is a problem. So if you don't talk about the problem, how will you get a solution? We can't just sit and act like we didn't see it. There's the same thing we did. We acted like where people are playing ball in a YMCA. Was it where we're playing the ball, sports commission, basketball, while they were fighting in other countries until the war came in Monrovia before we started paying attention. So we need to always be responsible, not only for ourselves, but for other people. As Liberians, we need to care. That's the only country we have. We need to really, really care. We can't close our eyes like you didn't see it. Because if you close your eye, it will hit you so hard as the war hit some of our families. and I'm included. So that's what I want to say. I think that's my takeaway, Reverend Law. You can take the floor.
Very good, Madam Chair. So, very good admonition that you have advanced concerning this issue. And all we have to do is just to encourage those motorcyclists in Liberia to be able to see themselves as dignified individuals. But also, like it was stated, that it is not a profession. To see the motorcycling should be a stepping stone, like you see Brother Gray. Motorcycling for him was a stepping stone to his goals and objectives. Also in Liberia, the opportunity gap that exists in Liberia, the government of Liberia should be striving to see how best they can close that gap in partnership with those who are stakeholders and those who are affected. It has to be done in partnership with them. And I know there's a whole lot for the government of Liberia to do, but I just want to call on Liberians all over and those organizations and institutions that are sentimental to the needs of Liberia to come in and see how best they can assist in this area by providing scholarships and other kind of incentive to these motorcyclists to help them transition from motorcycling into a more permanent and stabilized form of vocation that they can be able to sustain themselves and to lead to self-sustainability and also lead to a healthy economy in Liberia. It's important that also that the foreign investors they play their part in making sure that these motorcyclists are safe, and also that they are not discriminated against, and ensuring that their needs are taken into consideration. Not only the funds that they bring to you in exchange for the motorcycle that they receive, but their safety also, because you are part and parcel of that industry. And also, we also want to stress here that the government of Liberia should be able to see these individuals as key to the future of Liberia, because I just stated that the conflict affected youth and also those who took part in the Civil War, the combatants, the ex-combatants of the Civil War, and a very key group in our population, right? It's a very significant group of the population, and our population of the Liberian population, and so we make sure that it become true dynamos of human efforts. They are part and parcel. They are equipped, given the equipment that they need educationally, socially, equip them to be able to be the future leaders of Liberia. Otherwise, if they are not equipped, you will find some of the individuals becoming legislature and other, executives in the various localities, and based on their training and their orientation is how they will execute their functions, and whether to the betterment of the nation or to the detriment of the nation. So this is key when it comes to the future of Liberia, and it should be taken seriously. I think there should be a specific allocation in the annual budget, and that will be specifically allocated to be able to have these individual transition from motorcycling into a sustainable service or a sustainable vocation. It's very important, because it's crucial to the future of Liberia. They are also a very crucial voting bloc, a very crucial constituent to be right. So therefore, if they and therefore politicians need to, the political parties that are aspiring for the gap of authority of Liberia should look at the needs of these individuals and begin to provide the incentive they need, not only to rally them and to get them to mobilize them against the government and all these things. That's what the politicians should use them for. but they should use them, and they should be able to partner with them and begin to work with them now to see how they can make them an important and progressive part of the society. And not only to use them time for election, and after the election just leave them we're all meeting the needs they have. They have a very, state again, very, very important voting bloc. And if you treat them well, they can treat you well. If you're a seasoned politician, you should know exactly what I'm talking about. And so therefore, even the Liberian government as a whole, this group, they are a key mobilizing group. And they are easily to be mobilized because they have a lot in common, and they are also united on certain level. There are certain important characteristics of society in their life that draws them together. And so therefore, Liberian social scientists and politicians and political scientists should be able to capitalize on these things, these strengths that they have, and be able to work with them in a positive manner. So that they will not only be used to do things that go against the government or against the nation, but will become key partners in the nation building process. So political parties should not only sit down after election and do nothing, they should be active and involved in showing the population what they have intended to do and what they would do for the population if they have the advantage to be able to hold the gap of authority of Liberia. And so they can remain dormant until election time. So even the government cannot do certain things. These institutions that are talking about, all the institutions in Liberia, can begin to work with these marginalized individuals, these disadvantaged individuals, or these individuals that have a lot of potential and they are striving to make a living, to be able to work with them and be able to advance solutions and programs that will alleviate the pressing conditions that they find themselves in at this moment. So it is just a matter of plea and a matter of advocating collaborative effort, right, in a very sensible way that will benefit all. And there should be a sense of equilibrium and also sentimentality in the way we engage those who are affected and afflicted in our society. I do want to thank you for having me, Madam Chair, today. And it's a very important topic. We could continuously talk on this topic, continuously draw into and give feedback. But we will be working on getting individuals from the Ministry of Commerce and also from the Ministry of Transportation to come in here and give us their part of the information that we need. So we won't draw on hearsay, but we'll be hearing from the horse's mouth when it comes to what the government has envisaged and what kind of collaborative effort has been charted or are within the channels so that and what the government is doing to be able to alleviate this situation, so we can hear from them and then we can be able to draw our conclusions from there instead of just assuming, but we'll be having real world information from those who are active in the field. Thank you again for having me today.
Yes, thank you so much. So part of the efforts we're making is to make sure to bring one, especially when it comes to the Motorcyclists Federation, one or two of their leaders, and maybe bring one of the union and then someone from transportation to see how best can we all work together to see, to bring a structural change in when it comes to phasing out and see how we can get some funding to, especially through Mr. Trokon Gray rightly stated, that this is not a career and they're ready to phase out. And what do they need? They need vocational training. And he stated clearly the reason why they need vocational training, because some of them, they didn't graduate from high school, not him now, but some of his friends, and they start having children. How will you have children, you and the children going to first grade together? He stated that clearly in sharing his story. So they're looking for vocational institution where they can go and get trained, get some professional career, but how can they pay their school fees is another thing. So these are areas that we want to see how best we can have some funding to be able to help in the future, in the long run. But we want to have the time to talk to the Federation, one of the leaders, one or two of the leaders that we want to share with us. What are some of their efforts? What they've done? Whether they are working, communicating with transportation, and whether they're even aware or partnering with those who are importers of the motorcycle, because they need to be part of this discussion. So the next time you will see, oh, it may not be this month, next month, maybe in September, October, we'll be talking to these powers, the importers, and the federation themselves will work hard towards getting them, because we need to see how best we can assist in our own way on the Liberian View. So, on behalf of the Liberian View, I want to take this time to say thank you so much. We always love to connect with the grassroots, to look at the underserved, to look at uh, actual real situation within Liberia. And a part of our job is to bring to light so that people can know what is going on. The government also can share in and watch and be aware, so that actions can be taken before reactions. And we are the bridge, and we'll continue to be that bridge to make sure that we connect every sector of our economy, and every tribe, every clan, and every city. So we say thank you, and we see you in the month of August. And by then, I think we'll be bringing an organization here that I think you will work together. Thank you.
Thank you.